Welcome to another episode of The Unconditional Life. I'm Johnny.
I'm John.
Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you guys. Today, John, this is one of my favorite things to talk about in life just because it's fascinated me ever since I was a kid. Me and my dad have had deep conversations about it. You and I have had a few deep conversations about it. But
I love this one.
It's the idea of time and how we use it. First of all, there's so many. We could break up the subject of time in general into a lot of different aspects, and we could go a lot of different directions with it. But really, I want to look at how we practically use time in our daily lives, where what we use it, the things we bring it into, like excuses of not doing things we should, or wanting to be someplace we can't be. We usually blame it on time, but just the way we govern our own lives. Everything we do in our life has to do with how it aligns to what we've put on the clock. You know, I've got to be here at this time. I got to be there at this time. I got to be at work at this time. So time, our whole world individually is just wrapped around this concept of time. And to give you an idea of why I like talking about this so much, when you look at what actually time is, you're going to find out that really it's nothing. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. If I were to tell you, hey, John, how far is it from here to here? You'd look at that and you'd probably say, what, a foot?
Ish.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But is there a foot right here?
No.
What is a foot then?
It depends.
It's some magical thing we've agreed to call something.
Yep.
And really it's something that we've made up to measure distance. That's what time is, to measure how long it takes us to go across a certain distance. That's what time is. But and it's just, we use it in those ways so we can have a contextual experience of time while we're here. But really, what do you think about that, John? The idea that time is really just a measurement of what we've all agreed to call something.
I agree with that a lot. And I've always had this interesting relationship with time. In specific, because I have learned that intention can have a lot to do with the creation of our experience.
Sure.
While that sounds a little cryptic in itself, I'm literally meaning how many of us have experienced a day where it just, it's only 2. It's only 2:15. And whether that's a good or bad day, for me, those days are usually good days. They're usually days when I'm having fun and I'm laughing and I'm learning and I'm not paying attention to the clock. I took time to a different level about a decade ago, and I don't carry a watch. I pay barely attention to time, but I don't do it disrespectfully. I teach the world around me that I have a different construct of time. And so my thinking behind it was to quit hurrying so much, because I have learned, watching all of us, and some of you may say, yeah, John, this is BS. I just don't have time. But I'm going to say I think that statement in itself is totally BS. Because if you're really honest with yourself and you'll take a personal inventory, you always have time for what's really important to you. And by that, I would just ask you, I'm not picking on any one of us. Just ask, how much football did you watch last week? How much TikTok were you on? Facebook? And again, no judgment at all, but I'm learning that the less distracted I get by my phone, the more time I have in this imaginary container that we're dealing with called time. Yeah. I think it's interesting because some people get a lot of stuff done and some people don't get anything done. Do they have more time? Less time? No, I believe it's their perception and how they use it.
I believe you're absolutely right. And it starts from the very moment our head lifts off the pillow. How many of us wake up to an alarm clock? Me. You know what I mean? That's time saying, time to go, time to start your day. You're already starting your day with time being the number one factor that's controlling your day. You've got X amount of time to eat breakfast, get ready, and go to work. And you have to do it by this amount of time, or you're going to be in a rush, and you don't want to rush. But basically, as soon as your head comes off the pillow in the morning, time starts dictating your day. And it's not the same for everybody, obviously, but for most of us, Every move we make throughout that day, I've got to be here by then, here by then. The clock, the calendar, the schedule, all this stuff controls you. And it pulls your mind out of right now. So as soon as you start thinking about where you've got to be by when, you're no longer enjoying what's happening right now. It's impossible to do that when your mind's just not here. Not fully anyway. So, I mean, the same way you can break up the distances between right here and 100,000 miles that way or out into outer space. You can break that up and to call all these different measurements of time or whatever, the same or distance. You can do the same thing to break up your time. But you've got to start looking at time as something that is a creation like that. You utilize time the way you want to in your life. You know, you just have to have certain realizations that time is something that we've all agreed to.
Absolutely.
And that's just it. We've agreed to call the distance between here and 100,000 miles away minutes, seconds, hours, or whatever.
However we're
going to break that down. And that's how we've everybody's staring at time. Like this thing that controls all of our days. It's a way to keep yourself from being unconditionally yourself. When you think about, basically needing to adhere to a specific set of time rules.
I think so. I heard an interesting concept this morning. I was in a mentoring group with some dear friends of business owners that I meet with regularly, and one of the attendees mentioned something called time blocking, and I've never heard of it before, but she put it into this context that allowed me to go to a place really quickly in my head where I saw how it might allow me to be really present in every block of time that I'm experiencing and sharing with someone else.
Oh, so that kind of block, like a block.
Not blocking time,
Gotcha.
but blocking out. And here's what she runs a construction company. So she does sales in this block. She puts out fires in this block. She does quotes in this block. And so, because what I'm learning in life is everything's an emergency, right? There's always somebody vying for our time, some little minutia BS that's taking us away from something that really matters. And so in those moments, she's able to easily, let's say a moment just to be with a spouse or with a friend. How many times are we, what about I can't touch my phone because this is the block of time for Unconditional Life podcast. And I'm going to be present here in this moment, no matter. So anything that comes at me gets, I have a minute to check emergencies on my phone. And we'll get there after this block. And then when I'm there, I'm 100% present there. And I love this idea to practice because I believe it will allow me to take it into other phases and arenas in my life. Like just that practice to be able to walk in the door and say, hey, now I'm in the block that's called wife and kids. Now I'm in the block that's my exercise. Now, and it will, because what I'm noticing is we're losing time because we're scattered everywhere. We're spread in a billion different places and nobody's really focused in doing the one thing that we used to do a lot, which is be where we were. I love what you said at the beginning, right before we started. Time literally is one big long extension of now. Because everything that's happened, you can't undo. And the stuff that ain't here yet, you can't affect because it's not here.
They only exist in your mind. The past and the future.
It's make-believe. It really happened and it's really going to happen, but literally it's make-believe. You can't affect it at all. The only thing you have is right now. To live, to love, to laugh, to learn, to make choices. And I would say that's the best way to expand time. I heard one time something about in The Big Leap, Einstein time. It's a book by Gay Hendricks. I would highly recommend it to anyone. But he talks about this whole concept of time only being challenging for us because we believe it like we do.
Yes.
So I would just pose to you the thought and idea that we all have exactly enough time to do what's important to us. And this is a whole nother podcast. We'll talk about this later, but there's a word all of us throw around all the time. Busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. And I think that's just a crock of crap to avoid being accountable for what you want to do. Because if you want to do it, you'll do it.
It's not about if you're busy. It's what am I busy with? The things you've prioritized.
The things you're prioritizing.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's just like distance. There's never going to be a moment where we run out of time. Time is always going to be something we've created. As long as we're breathing and moving around here, time's a part of it. So it's not about, do I have the time? You've got all the time in the world to do all the things that matter to you. It's just a matter of prioritizing what matters to you and not judging yourself for prioritizing something over the other. It's just be honest about it, you know? It's not about what's right or wrong. It's just about what works and what doesn't work.
What a world. You just said, be honest about it. When mom calls and says, hey, can you come help me with, and you've already got commitments, don't say, I'll be there. Don't say, I'll try. Tell the freaking truth.
Yep.
Mom, I can't do it. I already got 3 things on my plate. Like, we are so worried about, and it's not even that we really want people to like us. We just want to think that people like us.
Yeah, really.
So we way overcommit to stuff. And then I'm too busy. Wait a minute. If I told you I would give you $1,000 if you showed up in 15 minutes, watch how unbusy you would get really freaking fast. Like, it's just about prioritizing your life and investing. I look at time I told you I've always been different. I look at time as social currency, right?
Yeah.
And just like when you take an investment, you bust your butt, you make $100,000, you're going to put that $100,000, if you're smart, where it's going to get what? An ROI. It's a return on your investment. So I say, put your time into things that give you the reward that you want, and quit telling this story that I'm too busy to get to all these things. Learn how to freaking say no and set yourself free.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as malleable as time is, realize that when you tell somebody, I'm going to make time for that, that's literally what you are doing. You are making time, because time is something that we create. We've created that and we agreed to it. So making time literally is just that. You've created this window where you told somebody you're going to do something. Anyway,
it's a contract.
It is.
I love it.
It absolutely is. We've all agreed to this thing of time. And I'm not saying it's good or bad the way we're using time, but just realize that it is an agreement, and that there really isn't a lot of intrinsic truth to what we call certain things in regards to time. It's just an agreement that we've all made together. But yeah, we just kind of wanted to get your mind thinking about this a little bit, and the concept of time being its nature.
I learned a lesson about time. For some reason, I'm compelled to tell this quick story. I've never really lived inside the construct of time like most people do. That's why I took my watch off. But I was in a training one time, Gary Acevedo at Rise Leadership, and he taught me the power of ish. And if you don't know where I'm going with this, I believe that way too many of us bind ourselves down with constraints that are absolutes. And then we're panicked and uptight and not our best selves because we haven't created this opportunity for flow in our lives. And so ask me to go to lunch, Johnny.
You want to go to lunch, John?
Sure. Let's meet at the Black Bear Diner.
Okay.
Say, when do you want to meet?
When do you want to meet?
Let's meet about noon.
Noon works.
Cool. Remember I said about noon. I'll see you at noon. Ish. And everybody thinks that's a cop-out, but all you have to do is be smart enough. I've done it in my business life. I do it in my life. Now, that doesn't mean I blow somebody off and show up at freaking 1 o'clock. But what I've learned is if I know that 5 to 5 after is ish, I can freaking breathe when my wife asks me a question on the way out the door. I don't got to be a jackass. Pardon my French. I don't got to be a jerk. I can just say, hey, I got 2 minutes. What's up, Mama? Because I'm not bound by this rigidity of something that doesn't even really exist anyway.
Right.
It's this made-up concept that your value is created at 9, from 9 to 5.
Well, and if you pinpoint it like that, if you're not running in step with that time, it changes everything about your mood. You're in a hurry. You go faster.
Yep.
You're cutting people off in traffic.
You're edgy. So I love this concept of ish. And it doesn't mean you run around willy-nilly and never get anywhere or get anything done. But it allows a little bit of fluidity because life is not exact like people think.
Right.
There's a lot of
Life is ish.
There's a lot of gray area that we spend time.
I should make a T-shirt. Life is ish.
Yeah, I love it. So, and not to belabor it, folks, but I've learned the less wound up I am about exactness in a lot of things, especially time, the easier my experience is. And I would propose to you that we operate optimally and efficiently when we're at ease, when we're comfortable, when we're breathing, when we're under the gun, like Johnny said. We just made a contract. I'm going to make some time for you from 1 to 3. To feel the difference for that. You know what, bro?
Yeah.
I think I can find some tomorrow. We'll hang out between 1 and 3-ish.
Yeah.
It just feels so much. I'm not making anything. I'm just allowing a space for us to be. So I love that. And I love this concept.
I just want to add one more thing. You just actually reminded it to me. I read one of the most incredible things. I can't remember what it was. I'll have to look it up and find out. But most of us, when we are in a hurry and we are doing stuff like that, it's like being in a river and going against the current. You know, you're fighting against something and stuff like that. And
I love that.
And I realize that that's what I do what we do a lot of times in our lives is we fight in these different areas of our lives. And then it says, you know what? If you just turned around and went with the flow, you'd not only have your power, but you'd have the power of the river. And that stuck with me because it's like living life with the flow of life, just going with it. Gives you so many tools that you're not wasting your brain power on.
You know what's cool about that, guys? Guys and gals, everybody that's there, I got one thought for you. Right before we wrap up, close your eyes for 10 seconds. Be with the moment in your life when it was just like being in the river, just like Johnny said, when everything just went bing, 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 and it happened perfect. Because we've all had at least one experience like that. Think about how often we make it just the opposite. No, instead of just, I'll hit that rock because it's there and that log and that, we go, nope, I got to get to that rock over there because it's just a little bit harder to get to, and I'm sure that's the right way. Just a thought. We have all had this exact experience unfold in our lives where it was simple and easy and flowing, or where we were literally swimming upstream, butting our heads, and we all know in that moment, but we keep dogging it on. So let's just quit dogging it on. Let's learn. Let's live in the flow of time, of love, of life, of possibilities.
Love that.
Heck yeah. We love you guys.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for sharing some of your time with us.
Absolutely.